Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, a Smash Bros. Clone that a ton of people are hyped for, despite other Smash clones being either mediocre or just flat out terrible. But hey, it's got a ton of great Nickelodeon characters, it's made by passionate devs, and it's supposed to have rollback netcode. So yeah, there does seem to be potential with this game. But when I first saw it, I couldn't help but be reminded of a very similar game. Another cartoon character Smash clone. One with characters from shows owned by one of Nickelodeon's competitors. That being 2011's Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion. I discussed this in the Brawlout review, but when it comes to Smash clones, there are tailgaters and tributes. Brawlout, for example, was a tribute, a game made by passionate devs who were inspired by Smash Bros. Mechanics and wanted to put their own creative spin on them. This game is a tailgater, a game that looks at the idea of Smash as a crossover platform fighter and just wants to try and achieve the same success. Instead of all of Nintendo's game characters coming together, Cartoon Network decided to put all of their cartoon characters together. Now, admittedly, that does sound like a fun idea. Who wouldn't like an idea where your favorite cartoon characters come together to beat the shit out of each other? But then there's the concern of idea versus execution. Because while the idea was neat, the actual execution, well, there's a reason why this game isn't talked about. There are two versions of this game, both released within a year of each other. First, there was the 3DS version, which is kind of interesting since this was before Smash decided to go on a handheld, and then there was Punch Time Explosion XL, an enhanced port for Wii, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 that had more stages, more characters, more bonus features, and some overall quality of life adjustments. I first discovered this game, I think within a year of XL's release. I was drawn to it pretty easily since the cover had Johnny Bravo, Dexter, and Blossom, but those hooks, while effective, were nothing compared to the one with the gourmet bait, Ben My Childhood Obsession Tennyson. Of course the Smash Bros. Style game with Ben 10 characters would have mine and my wallet's attention. It was one of many pieces of merch, including this, that I was compelled to get to appease the celestial sapiens. Until Omniverse came and told me to move on from Ben 10. It's a good thing Nickelodeon doesn't have one of my cartoon holy trinity repped in their game. I mean, there's SpongeBob, but that was obvious. It's not like they're gonna have the Ninja Turtles or anything. And now I don't even have a choice anymore. But yeah, I got the game and was quickly disappointed. I knew back then that the game was just a cash grab piece of trash. It was such a disappointment that after a year or two, I ended up selling the game. That ended up being a poor decision because 1, I sold it at a bookstore, so I probably only got $5 for it, and 2, I didn't understand what the hell replay value was. After seeing Super Smash Bros. Nickelodeon Edition, I wanted to replay this game, so I had to get a new copy off of Amazon. Alright guys, sorry for the drop in quality here, but I just thought of something. So, I used to own this game, I just repurchased it, and that means that my same Wii that I have should still have save data because I tried playing my old copy before on my cousin's Wii, and it didn't save the save data because it saves to the individual console. So that makes me think, what's going to happen if I have this new disc in a Wii that has already played this same game but not this exact disc? We're going to figure that out right now. I tried looking it up, didn't find any answers. We're going to find out the answers right here, right now. There we go, it reads the disc. I'm going to turn on my capture card. So now I can also get some better footage for this. Okay, so it did not save my save data. So that means it will keep the save data only if you have the same disc and the same console. If you have one of those that's different, whether it's a game disc or the game console, that means it's going to have completely refreshed data. So that's very interesting. Yeah, that was a cool thing to test, but it also meant that I had to start from square one. Or at least I would have had it not been for the forgotten practice that is cheat codes. Yeah, you just type in these random codes and you unlock pretty much everything. The codes are all online, so I won't say which codes do what. But I did test what would happen if I typed naughty words, and it won't let me type them in. Also, don't type invalid codes, or you'll be on this screen for a few seconds too long. Just let the players press a button to close the message. Don't force this message to stay on screen for a few seconds. But yeah, now I have everything unlocked again, so it's like nothing ever happened. Except I have $40 less off of one of my Amazon gift cards. This menu is very lazy. This is the first thing you see after choosing your save file, and it's the most basic bullshit. Also, the graphics and character models are, oof. They obviously tried to keep the cartoony style, but some characters really didn't translate well. They aren't too bad, but they aren't all that pleasant to look at. But one thing that's a bit weird about the graphics comes from the Ben 10 characters and stages. Why? Because these are all literally taken from the Ben 10 video games. Almost everything Ben 10 in this game was literally ripped from the games Vilgax Attacks and Cosmic Destruction. Makes sense since those games and PTE were made by the same studios, but that probably means they used one of those Ben 10 games as a base for this one. Then they made models for these characters who would look very out of place in Ben 10 and created something ugly. The soundtrack, like those Ben 10 games, is made up of mostly 30-second looping songs. Some minute-long loops and some 20-second loops. The thing is though, the Ben 10 games at least used those 30 seconds to make some sweet themes. In Punch Time Explosion though, while they tried to keep the same musical style of each show's distinct soundtracks, the themes just sounded like the most generic shit. They even messed up the Ben 10 stages soundtracks. Let's play some from Punch Time Explosion and then some from Vilgax Attacks and Cosmic Destruction. And while we're talking about the audio, there's a glitch in the Xbox version that makes the sound effects too quiet and subdued to the point where you can barely hear them with the default settings. And now, the voice actors. Cartoon characters are often tied to the actors who portray them. This means if you can't get the original voice actors to reprise their roles, it just feels off-putting. But this is Cartoon Network. Surely they should get at least most of the VAs back.
Let's celebrate with some ice cream!
E.T.'s eye are cool. This is not over yet.
Time to recycle these eco-villains.
Don't you know you can never beat a Powerpuff Girl?
The only voice actors they got to return for the playable characters in the 3DS version were Yuri Lowenthal, Tara Strong, Keith Ferguson, and Gray DeLisle. If you count Blue and Mandy as half characters because they're parts of duos, that means only a combined 3 characters have their original voice actors. That's a sixth of the whole 3DS roster. Also, the 3DS version had a total of 8 voice actors for the playable cast. Sure, one of those was Nolan North, but even his awesome voice isn't enough to make up for this. Speaking of Nolan, he voices 3 characters, the same combined amount that Gray voices. And Tara and Yuri, funny how it's these two considering they're both Ben, only voiced 1 character each before this game. Yet Tara voices 3 characters as well, and Yuri voices the most at 4 characters. XL had some fixes with that, what with them adding extra characters and all, even if the only added character to have their original VA was young Ben Tennyson with Tara Strong. You know, the one who was already voicing other characters, but they did go back to old characters, so Flapjack, Number 1, Blossom, and Billy would have their former VAs reprise their roles. So that buffs the total up to a combined 7.5 characters with their former VAs, and a total of 12 VAs voicing a roster of 26. Those are still some bad results. For some interesting trivia, unless some aliens used recycled audio, none of either of the Ben's aliens had their original voice actors. Kevin is just Ben since Yuri Lowenthal voices both. Nicky Jones probably couldn't come back to voice Chowder since he was a child actor at the time whose voice just kept getting deeper and distant from his initial Chowder voice. Oh god, I'm gonna butcher this name. Thurop von Orman. God, I hope I said that right. Thurop von Orman surprisingly didn't voice Flapjack until XL, despite not only being the original voice of Flapjack, but also the creator of The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Quentin Flynn, after Richard Horvitz took over as Billy in XL, still got to voice Toylinator, yet another character he didn't voice until PTE. And finally, XL makes Nolan North the VA with the most playable roles, with a total of 5 frickin' characters. Anyways, for some other presentation things, Space Ghost is the game's announcer, which sounds cool, but his crappy one-liners get very old very fast. Every match begins with the announcer introducing each player one at a time before counting down from 3. So before you actually fight, you have a very long and unnecessary wait. And finally, if you thought Brawlout's victory screens were boring, this is what Punch Time Explosion's victory screens look like. This is the most uninspired shit I've ever seen. Some characters even clip through their boxes. The characters do these quick animations depending on if they win or lose. They say one of 3 or 4 victory quotes, and the music is just an abridged loop of the main menu theme. Alright, now let's move on to some more interesting topics. Let me start out by saying this game is unbalanced as hell. The game is dominated by specials. If your character doesn't have good specials, they're not worth playing. Combos are near impossible to do because of this whack-ass physics engine, and smash attacks don't often kill unless you're right next to the blast zone. A lot of special moves are either spammable, really safe, have too much knockback, or some combination of the 3. The controls are the exact same as Smash Bros. Forward tilts are missing, forward and back airs are the same, there's no air dodging, and grabs have become dumbed down to this universal overhead grab and throw. I wish characters had pummels and the same diverse throws as in Smash Bros. Instead, I only ever use the grab button to grab items. Oh, and yes, there are items. They can sometimes be as distracting as Smash Bros. Items, but this is already a chaotic and messy game, so you never really notice a difference from the items. But also, they pale in comparison to the most distracting item, the assist trophy, or assist box. It's the assist trophy. It spawns assist characters from various shows to give you a helping hand in varying effectiveness. Sticky Beard and the Vrito brothers can damage the person who spawned them, and that just pisses me off. I think my favorite assist though is Dracula, because he makes your opponents dance. This is the only item that can be turned off on its own because instead of being a random spawning item, it routinely spawns in the same select areas on each stage. It's consistent, but that can just lead to camping. But there's one more very creative aspect about the assist box. Occasionally, once you pick it up, it'll activate a synergy attack. A synergy attack is basically an extra final smash in the form of a team-up attack with an assist trophy character. You get things like Ben and Fred Burger making explosions with Swampfire fireballs and Fred Burger farts, Bubbles and Eduardo joining forces so you can play as an active hitbox with automatic laser beams, Peppermint Larry getting max sugar high, Grim poisoning Mungdal's food,
Poison?
Fuzzy Lumpkins making the meat while Father does the grilling, Number 2 helping Scotsman go FPS, Aku becoming Valhallen's guitar, and Samurai Jack also teaming up with Valhallen. I think the funniest one is Vilgax's, because instead of actually teaming up with Coco, Vilgax scares the eggs out of Coco, and Vilgax's robots hatch from the eggs. And since I mentioned Final Smashes, I might as well talk about how they work. This game is a weird combo of Smash and PlayStation All-Stars, even though this game came out before PlayStation All-Stars, because it plays more closely to Smash, but you get supers by collecting cubes that fall out of players when they're attacked. Once you collect around 40 cubes, you have enough to unleash your final smash. The actual attacks are different between the 3DS and XL versions. In the 3DS version, you just get these long-ass cutscenes that just drag on, and then an explosion happens in the actual battle. That's it. Thankfully, they realized this was a terrible idea and fixed them into actual Smash Bros. Style supers in the XL version. The startup cutscenes are way shorter, and the actual attacks are either automatic attack sequences, a giant laser, a free-moving hitbox, or controllable buffs. Let's see some of the highlights.
Chowder, look at what you've done! Now the animators are gonna have to draw all this fire!
You've got Tentacle Hentai, this really overpowered BS from number 1. What the fuck? Billy and Mandy going all Dragon Ball. I mean, Chicken Ball Z. Vilgax doing a better Game & Watch Final Smash, which is so powerful it can crash the game. Johnny Bravo showing off just how little creativity there is in his moveset. Toilinator. Yeah, I should have seen this one coming. And Kevin having the best one in the game. His is basically the Giga Bowser of this game, letting you control Ultimate Kevin. Also, for some reason, Him's Final Smash is either glitched or unnecessarily extra. Him has 2 Final Smashes that seem to be randomly selected whenever you activate the super. One where Him does the same attack as he did in the 3DS version while Him was an assist character, and the other where you control Him so you can snip your opponents from above. Wait, if Him rains down hell from above, does that mean...
The devils don't come from hell beneath us, no. No, they come from the sky.
There are 18 characters in the 3DS version, and 8 additional characters in the XL version. Half of those were assist characters, think like what happened to Little Mac and Darth Samus in Smash Bros, before being added into XL. You start out with 8 characters, but unlock the rest through story mode or playing a certain amount of versus matches. Well, this is the case for everyone except the additional XL characters who have to be purchased in the in-game store with in-game points. A total of 11 shows had representation in the form of playable characters. Those shows are Ben 10, Chowder, Flapjack, Kids Next Door, Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Dexter's Laboratory, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Samurai Jack, Captain Planet, and Johnny Bravo. What's strange is that by the time this game was released, the only series repped that was still running was Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. And now to briefly go over all the characters. Ben Tennyson, I remember him being a lot better, but I was probably blinded by my love for his series. Chowder, he's teamed up with his pet Fart Cloud Kimchi and has 4 jumps for absolutely no reason. Buttercup, she has a fireball and an uppercut, so she's the closest thing this game has to a Shoto. Flapjack, where the hell did you get all this candy to weaponize? You're supposed to have no candy and no money to buy candy. Captain Knuckles, they really had to stretch for ideas on how to build a moveset for him. Number 1, he's got a ton of fun gadgets in his moveset. Good job. Bubbles, probably the worst playable Powerpuff Girl. Blossom, a certain funny man on YouTube discovered just how broken her ice breath is, and that's all people needed to know she's top tier. Mac and Blue, you can get rid of Mac and almost everything this character does still looks fine. Dexter, he's also got some fun weapons and machines. Not as fun as number 1 though. Monkey, the most forgettable character in this game. Grim, he's got a scythe, of course he's going to be good. Billy and Mandy, I like these 2 as a duo character. Good job. Samurai Jack, another character who I remember being better, but he's still pretty cool. It's Samurai Jack. Did you expect any less? Captain Planet, this game's WTF character. Also, now you kids know what inspired Planetina. Father, he may look like Game & Watch, but he's the character with the closest thing to a Falcon Punch.
Falcon!
Vilgax. Vilgax is basically this game's Ganondorf, except he's better than Ganondorf because he actually uses his sword. Doria my ass. Mojo Jojo. He's probably the character I've played the least due to him having some odd looking attacks. Kevin Levin. He's so hard to use because of his lack of range. Good thing some of his specials are at least reliable for getting kills. Johnny Bravo. I respect his inclusion and all, but they were clearly scraping the bottom of the barrel when creating a moveset for him. Except his neutral air. That move is great. Him. I thought Him would never find me again. Young Ben Tennyson. he has the same announcer call as Teen Ben Tennyson. But also, this is the worst character in the game, and it seriously pisses me off. Why do you make him look so pathetic with his animations? Why are his specials so terrible? Why would you shit all over my Lord and Savior, young Master Tennyson? Okay, why am I still doing this bit where I'm turning Ben 10 into some kind of religion? The Scotsman. Now this is a sword. Has Delgado. He'd be much better if he wasn't such a big target with a shit ton of startup and end lag on all of his attacks. Toilinator, obviously the joke character. And Aku, my new main. This is due to 3 things. 1, he has multiple jumps, so it's easier to chase your opponents to get more damage or a KO. 2, his up special is a pretty reliable kill move. And 3, his neutral special. Along with the discovery of how broken Blossom's Ice Breath was, it was discovered that Aku's mid-air, instant activation, massive ranged laser was also hella broken. And honestly, I have more fun with all of Aku's BS than I do Blossom's. If you guys want me to make my own tier list or countdown on this roster, then let me know in the comments. The character select screen is so weird because they're all ordered based on when you recruited them in the story mode. Yes, there's a story mode. I'll get to that in a bit. All characters have 4 skins and a bonus unlockable costume. Most recolors don't reference anything, but some that I noticed were Ben having an albedo recolor. Yes, albedo, not albedo. I don't know why the fuck they retconned that in Omniverse. It's albedo. Chowder having a gumbo recolor, and Johnny Bravo having an Elvis recolor. Every character's 4th recolor is a dark alt, which is used in some story mode fights. The 2 that really stand out to me are Father's because it had to be all white since he was already all black, and Samurai Jack's because it uses the same outfit colors as Mad Jack. The unlockable costumes all reference either different outfits worn by said characters or different characters who are similar to said characters. You get some pretty basic ones like Shirtless Chowder, Sardine Costume Flapjack, and Monkey when he's not saving the world. But then you get some pretty neat ones like the Rowdy Rough Boys over the Powerpuff Girls, Uncle Father, Captain Pollution, Billbot and Mandroid, Alien Forces Mutated Kevin, and, my personal favorite, Classic Vilgax. But then there's some weird ones like Exposed Brain Mojo Jojo and Oh my. So overall, the roster's pretty cool. Yes, it's missing a ton of Cartoon Network All-Stars, but Smash doesn't even have every Nintendo character, so who cares? Remember how I complimented Brawlout for having very few hazardous stages and relying more on competitive focused or static stages? This game does the exact opposite. Good luck finding a stage in this game that's viable for competitive play because there are none. In fights, it feels more so like you're fighting against the stage than you are the other fighters. Let's take a brief run through on all the stages. Also, none of the stages have actual names, so I'm gonna be calling them what they probably should have been named. Mungdal's Catering. You start on the roof and are restricted to the way too spacious kitchen. Marzipan City. This would be competitively viable if it weren't for there being too much space and a platform with a ceiling. Mount Fondoom. How are you supposed to fight on this stage when there's a giant center pit, these 2 tiny ass ledges, and a platform in the volcano that doesn't stay there the whole time? Bellwood/Null Void. The Bellwood part is fine, but then you're permanently teleported into the Null Void with these revolving platforms and a Null Guardian shooting a laser at you. Primus. It was clearly explained in Primus's debut episode that the Codon stream is not lava and does not have lava-like effects. Turning the Codon stream into lava just makes this stage a pain to play on. Stormalong Harbor. First you're on the docks, then you have this auto-scrolling section, then you're on a ship being shot at. Bubby's Mouth. Okay, the idea was clever, but the execution was not only disgusting, but it also sucks as a stage. It's crammed, characters keep bouncing in the mouth. If the mouth is open and you get launched out, good luck coming back. And hitting Bubby's uvula makes her vomit, creating a wind box. It doesn't work as a stage. Candied Island. Too much space, not enough room to fight on, and giant shitballs. Sector 5 Treehouse. This would be a lot better without the ceiling. Cool Bus. You like awkward shaped stages? You like turbines that eliminate half the stage's space? KND Moonbase. This stage keeps switching gravity and has some high up platforms. Townsville. This is the worst stage in the game. You start out with all these buildings and rooftops, but then Mojo Jojo comes in and quickly destroys all that fighting space, leaving you with this crammed fragment of one single building. And Mojo Jojo's robot stays there and routinely swings his hand across the air, almost always killing anyone hit by it. You're left with a tiny amount of space to fight on and a ton of empty space where the rest of the stage used to be, and this asshole keeps getting his own kill count. Mojo Jojo's robot. This stage is almost just as terrible as the first Powerpuff Girls stage. First problem, you're boxed in so you can only get kills off the top. Second, there are electric walls that have crazy knockback and can send you straight to the top at high percentages. Third, fighting in the center will result in collateral damage upon the power core. Breaking it will cause these wires to flail around, creating another permanent hitbox. I swear, with all these walls and hazards, most matches on this stage end up looking like this. Maybe this is the worst stage because of how much it damages the flow of gameplay. And these are the only two Powerpuff Girls stages. Foster's Home 1. You've got walls, small walk-off portions, and these assholes running across the stage. Foster's Home 2. Shittier Luigi's Mansion from Brawl. Friend's Room. This stage has a ceiling, walk-off, trampoline, spiky tire swing, a window you can fall out of, and no music in the Wii version. Why just the Wii version? I don't know. Dexter's Lab 1. There are conveyor belts, acid, and this giant obstruction. Dexter's Lab 2, the stage I've seen crash the game the most. Mandark's Lab. There's a platform with a ceiling, high up platforms, and a hazard that turns players into chickens. Toadblatt's School. There's no safe space here since the ground alternates between acid and mud, and the platforms spawn these things that turn players into frogs. Graveyard. A stage that constantly spawns zombies. That would be like having a Zelda stage in Melee that constantly spawns Redeads. Underworld. There's a top platform which sets on fire, a smaller stone platform, two ceilings because of those two platforms, and a boat which is a pain in the ass to recover onto. Samurai Dojo. This giant bell gets in the way and there's this giant fish in the lake waiting to kill you if you get too close. Burned Village. Aside from some early mini explosion and a small wall, this is the most tournament legal stage in my opinion. Future Highway. This is just Bridge of Eldin. The training stage. It's too big and the walls force you to only get kills off the top. And the final boss stage. This would be better if the top blast zone wasn't so high up and if these pits never opened up. So yeah, now you hopefully see why these stages taint the experience of the game. Don't recreate any of these in Smash Bros. Let's start with the game mode at the top of the main menu. Story mode. It's a lot like Subspace. The characters all team up to save their friends, save their worlds, and stop the bad guys. You do this by platforming through worlds, again Subspace style, fighting other characters, and fighting bosses. Though I will say, this has some things that make it better than Subspace, like the levels all being from actual cartoon worlds instead of random locations, and the game giving you the option to freely switch between characters. Some levels will also have mini-games where they temporarily change up the genre. Some of these include DKC minecart sections, slingshotting shit, and even going all FPS. The game has these cutscenes that animate everything with still PNGs of things and characters. Then there are in-game dialogue scenes where some are automatic and animated, and others are just characters standing around, not even looking at each other, and talking. Nothing is fully voiced aside from the announcer commentating over what's happening in cutscenes. And now for the cliff notes of the story mode. Space Ghost puts on Cartoon Network and sees Chaos arising in Dexter's world, then the channel switches to show the KND Sector 5 treehouse under attack, then Chaos arising in Endsville, and then Vilgax conquering Marzipan City. Wait, how did Vilgax get in Chowder's world? Actually, I don't think any of the villains or their motives were ever explained in this. Anyways, Ben finds out about Vilgax's attack through a newspaper? Okay, first of all, since when does any news station in Bellwood know who Vilgax is? Second, how are they reporting on this when this is happening in another dimension? Just have the Ultimatrix or some plumber's alert Ben. And then Ben enters Chowder's world. Somehow. Anyways, he explores Marzipan City and then runs into Chowder, who's been possessed, hypnotized, turned evil somehow. Yeah, this happens to most of the characters you team up with, but it's never explained what the hell this is supposed to be. Anyways, you kick Chowder's ass, he joins Ben, and then they travel through Marzipan some more to find Mung Dal. You then have to protect Mung from a horde of enemies because Vilgax doesn't like his big nose, I guess. After that, Chowder's world gets deleted, Ben and Chowder get teleported to Bellwood, and then Vilgax sicks Dark Buttercup on them. After defeating her and recruiting her, you chase after Vilgax in the Null Void. In the Null Void, you get to play some DKC, see some Scooby-Doo-esque antics, and learn that aiming is overrated. Once you catch up to Vilgax, he teleports you to Primus of all places, where he sicks Ultimate Kevin on you. So then you have to fight Ultimate Kevin as he attacks you with Swamp Fire Vines, Diamond Head Crystal Domes, and either Swamp Fire or Heat Blast Fireballs. Also, side note, why doesn't he have Big Chill's wings? This same error is also on the Ultimate Kevin action figure, so I don't know, this might just be some spiteful action out of racism towards Necrophrygians or something. Halfway through, Gwen Ex Machina's in to save your ass, and accidentally makes Kevin huge. This part of the boss fight is so dumb. Gwen literally gives you invincibility bubbles, so just sit in those and wait for something to hit. Anyways, Kevin gets restored just in time to see Ben's world get deleted. But then Dexter somehow finds them and saves them. Except for Gwen and Kevin, he just left them to die. We then move on to Flapjack Quest to get Knuckles and save Stormalong Harbor from KND's Sticky Beard. You go through Stormalong, fight pirates and birds, destroy a couple of pirate ships, and then Flapjack and Knuckles run into Vilgax and Dark Number 1. After these two morons somehow beat Vilgax and Number 1 joins the duo, and Bubby swallows them in Sticky Beard. After he beats Sticky Beard, this cutscene makes it look like Ben's team was with Flapjack, and then the B team is sent to the Kids Next Door world. So you go through the treehouse very easily thanks to Number 1's aerial mobility. Also, there's a QTE. If you want to see all the QTE fails, plus other minigame fails, check out this video here linked in the cards. Some of these fails are actually pretty interesting. After that, you fight a horde of enemies and hop on the Cool Bus. Once on there, you fight the Toilinator, and then get on a ship of your own to fight off Sticky Beard's army as they try and destroy the bus. Alright, now forget that they exist because it's time to go back to the A-Team, who accidentally end up in Townsville, where Mojo Jojo's wreaking havoc and the other two Powerpuff Girls are dark. Don't worry, let's just say they quickly change back. Anyways, you go through Townsville, do this 2D shooter section with bubbles, and then save the mayor. The next level is the worst one in the entire game. And that says a lot when there's one level that has a consistent crash. In this level, the heroes fight each other over who gets to go inside of Mojo Jojo's robot and stop it. What? Why don't you all go in there? I get it, they needed a way to shoehorn in a fight on the Townsville stage. But why did they go for this instead of the more obvious fight Dark Bubbles and Blossom? This story mode is incredibly half-baked. Hell, it's quarter-baked. So yeah, after that, you go inside of Mojo Jojo's robot and have to destroy its power core. What's weird is that the game allows you to pick anyone you've used thus far, including Flapjack, Knuckles, and Number 1, all of whom should still be stuck in Kids Next Door. So I picked Number 1 and ran into a glitch where I couldn't stop flying straight to the top blast zone. So I decided to quit, buy a coup since you can use any of the purchasable fighters in story mode whenever you want, and cleared the level. Also, this level will start out with whoever you picked talking to Mojo Jojo, even if they never appeared in story mode. So technically, every playable character can have at least one line of dialogue in story mode, and you can have Mojo Jojo try and stop Mojo Jojo. After that, the gang meets back up in the robot, proving just how worthless the last level was, and they get transported to Foster's home for imaginary friends. You first turn Mac in Black back into Mac in Blue, and then go through this maze-like trap-filled mansion in search of Cheese, who's in need of saving. Once you find him, you just protect him from a horde of enemies, and then Dexter brings both the A-Team and B-Team back to his laboratory. Quick side note, every time Mac talked in the Foster's level, the character icon showed both him and Blue, but in Dexter's lab, that's fixed so it's just Mac. Speaking of the first level of Dexter's lab, I remember it always crashed the game if I was on save file 1, was playing as Dexter, and reached this churro. Isn't that great? A level that consistently crashes the game! I tried to avoid this by doing a clean story mode playthrough on file 3, but the game still crashed near the end of the level. I went back in again and got through without any crashes. Also, I recruited Monkey, did some first person shooting, and noticed this level used a robot original to Ben 10 Alien Force Vilgax attacks. This robot was never used in the show. It was made as part of the Vulpin level. So why the hell did they reuse this? All that aside, you fight Father with number 1 as a teammate, and then have a boss fight showdown with Aku. Wouldn't this make more sense in the Samurai Jack world? Especially since there are no boss fights in the Samurai Jack world? But whatever, you fight Aku and get a hand from Didi, who can somehow restrain the Master of Masters. He then becomes a dragon, you throw bombs in his face, you finish him with a laser, and then they all head to Endsville. Right away, Grim joins the group and tells them that Billy and Mandy have been abducted. By who? We don't know, we're never told that. So you go through the town, see volcanoes erupting, a tornado you have to run from, enter these poorly designed portals, then get on a train where you fight General Scar, and travel to Toadblad's school. There you find Dark Billy and Mandy, restore and recruit them, bring them to fight zombies in a graveyard, and then they head to the underworld. Once there, you play with some zombies, ride some snakes, and go from portal to portal until you find Mojo Jojo and Father, who have just teamed up. Or they've been working together this whole time. Like I said, that was never clear. One more stop before the final boss, Samurai Jack's world. You fight Mad Jack by doing a samurai style 1v1. Okay, normally it's a 1v1, but after the game crashed in Dexter's lab, I switched over to the save file with everything unlocked, just so it would go a little faster. Regardless, Jack joins the heroes, they fight Vilgax one last time, and journey across the desert. There, you play an FPA, that's first person archery, do an auto running segment in a volcano, and find yourself on a future highway where you defeat a ton of these ultra robots. These ultra robots are supposed to be strong enough to destroy villages and mostly resist Jack's sword. But here I just spammed one move and it was over in less than a minute. After that, it's time for the final boss. But oh no, they get captured by the big bad villain, and that villain is a TV remote. Of course. The TV remote then begins to send the fighters to where they'll be trapped and lost forever. Boomerang. But then Ben and Chowder inadvertently save everyone by transforming into Swamp Fire and farting, which, when combined with the heart, earth, and water of some of the others, summons the most flamboyant environmentalist, Captain Planet. And now for the actual fight. In the 3DS version, you just break its TVs, but in the XL version, you actually go toe-to-toe with it. Well, your 4 best fighters do. Seriously, what the hell were you thinking, Dexter? What are the other 11 fighters going to do? So yeah, it was slashing and shooting, I was breaking its TVs, its allies had some pretty crappy AI, and then the game glitched because the remote became completely invulnerable to all of my attacks. So yeah, I had to restart the final boss battle. After the remote was defeated, all of the worlds were restored, and the heroes were all transported back home. You can then replay story mode with all characters. Also, you may have noticed, but the characters in the in-game cutscenes change colors to match if you're playing those characters with those colors. That way, you can make some fun inconsistencies. Wow, I didn't think my run-through would be that long. Let's move on to some other modes. Of course, there are regular battles, but there are also PTE mode, where you compete to get the most PTE cubes in a certain amount of time, and Drones mode, where you compete to see who can KO the most enemies in a certain amount of time. I mean, they're not great, but they're something, I guess. And finally, there's Arcade mode. All characters have boring and forgettable intros and endings. They don't even really tell a story, they're just there. Also, I only played through Ben's arcade mode for this video, which was interesting because his ending is either glitched or unfinished because it's just this one line 3 times. The fights also follow these patterns: 2v1, 1v1, 2v2, 1v1, 1v1, 2v2, 1v2, 1v1, 1v3, and a final 1v1, always against him. So the 2 most notable fights here are the last 2. The 1v3 can be so annoying to the point where you might have to retry the fight multiple times. Not only do you get swarmed, but because the trios are the Ben 10 heroes, the Powerpuff Girls, and the Billy and Mandy characters, the only stages you play on are Primus, Mojo Jojo's robot, or the Underworld. So the options are shit, shit, shit. Like I said, these are some of the worst stages to the point where they end up being a fourth opponent in the match. Once you finally, or luckily, get past this, you then fight him, who has a custom intro and has pretty dumb AI that will sometimes just kill itself. I say just look up the intros and endings online if you want to see them, and just go through it once, because just beating arcade mode once will unlock the bios. These just give you descriptions of all the playable characters and assist characters. You can also see the inaccurate stat distributions on all of the playable characters. I'd like to point out that Valhallen's bio references a certain yellow character who lives in a pineapple under the sea. So yeah, SpongeBob is referenced in a Cartoon Network game. I wonder if they ever considered asking for SpongeBob as a guest character if they ever did DLC. Who knows, maybe we'll end up with someone like Ben or Samurai Jack as a guest character in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Or not, don't bet on that. Aside from characters, stages, and costumes, the only other thing you can buy in the shop are clips from each show. Except Captain Planet, he gets nothing. Most get 3, but Johnny Bravo only gets 2, and Powerpuff Girls gets 4. Yeah, that makes sense. Some of these were selected to show the references of certain attacks, quotes, or costumes, but others are just completely random. 3 of the 4 Powerpuff Girl clips have no reason to be there. Some of these random ones are pretty iconic scenes, but all of them should be. Have a Chowder clip that showcases a fourth wall break. Have a Flapjack clip that has the Flapjack scream. And the last thing to talk about are the glitches. Because holy shit, there are a ton of them. While gathering footage for the review, the game crashed on me a total of 4 times. I remember this game would crash a lot on Dexter stages, loading screens, and one time before a 4-man Johnny Bravo free-for-all. But they aren't all game-breaking glitches. Let's take a look at some visual glitches. Whenever Ben dies off the top while doing his up special, Ben's model still falls from the top before he respawns. Characters with eye lasers just shoot 1 laser between their eyes instead of 2 from both eyes. Heat Blast has an incomplete head and no head flames. This next one isn't a glitch, but an oversight, because they used the Ben 10 Alien Force Cannon Bolt for young Ben only because the model was ripped straight from Vilgak's attacks. Aku has a shit ton of visual glitches because he's constantly shapeshifting. Landing on unlevel platforms makes it look like you're still falling. There are a ton of instances of visual effects or glitches if you hit a character out of certain moves. For some audio glitches, Coco's eggs popping can still be heard in cutscenes.
It just doesn't make sense.
Young Ben's victory voice lines can be a bit glitchy.
Oh yeah! The Omnitrix is awesome!
And some voice clips and sound effects can interrupt each other or linger for too long. For some ones that will affect gameplay, Big Chill's icicles will sometimes spawn in random areas depending on the stage. Johnny Bravo got stuck on the training stage platform. Some assist characters simply don't work right on Mojo Jojo's robot. Some characters and assists can stand on nothing. Characters can sometimes teleport for no reason. And some hitboxes will still be active even if the actual visual attack has finished. This game is a mess. For as much of a fun idea as it was, the finished product just feels unfinished. I would argue this game to be unplayable because of how unbalanced gameplay is, poorly designed the stages and levels are, and how it's littered with glitches. Having fun ideas and references isn't enough. You need the most passionate and capable developers possible. Ones that know what the hell they're doing and will respect every single piece of Cartoon Network representation. This is something that some people are betting Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl will have based on the studio's previous work with Slap City. But honestly, this game makes me worried for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl just because of the similarities in concept. I seriously hope those devs looked at Punch Time Explosion and took notes on what not to do. So then, if I see this game as an insult, why did I spend so much time reviewing it? I think I made it clear that I really wanted this game to be good. This has some of my favorite cartoons represented in a game inspired by one of my all-time favorite video game franchises. And hey, not only did it use nostalgic cartoons, but the game itself is nostalgic to me, considering I first played it almost 10 years ago. But unfortunately, it seems like that project was made out of greed rather than passion. And I think that's the game's biggest downfall. In an attempt to make the most money possible off of people hooked by a concept, they made something so repellent that the game was slammed by reviewers, unavailable on the 3DS eShop, and forced to go for 99 cents on the PlayStation 4 store before being pulled at an unknown date for unknown reasons. Think about that. This game pushed customers away so much that they resorted to selling it for $1 and still couldn't get sales to come in. I'd say I'd want Cartoon Network to get inspired by Nickelodeon and try again with this concept, but seeing Cartoon Network's lineup right now, a rebooted roster might end up being a turnoff to someone like me. Unless, of course, they keep most, if not all of the characters from XL, and don't do anything stupid like redesign the Ben 10 characters after Omniverse and the reboot. And even if they did do this, they'd really need something big to prove this wouldn't end up making the same mistakes as their first and enhanced first attempt. I will admit though, out of Brawlhalla, Brawlout, and PTE, I had the most fun with PTE, mostly due to PTE having more to do and a more compelling roster. Still, I think it's best this game remains not forgotten, but in a part of our minds where it'll be very well hidden, but rises up when making comparisons to other games or media similar to it. And with that, I'll end with a final statement regarding Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Don't make your takeaway from this review be that you should ignore this game and think it'll be a guaranteed failure, but make that takeaway be that you should always hype responsibly. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Until next time, thank you for watching.
Samurai Jack.